Welcome to the Expert Speaker Podcast. We're here with Natasha Miller, Inc. 5000 fastest growing company founder, not once, not twice, 3 times. She's an award-winning and best-selling author, Wall Street Journal bestseller. She helps people write their memoirs with her new program called Memoir Sherpa. She has a thriving 7-figure event company. She's a paid keynote speaker, and she's going to give us all the juicy details. Welcome, Natasha.
Thank you so much.
All right. Let's start with your recent keynote speech.
Yeah.
You had a paid speaking engagement. They bought 100 copies of your book. Break down how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a phone call? Was it an email? Was there a negotiation? Was there a contract? Did you negotiate the fee? How did you get them to buy the 100 books? Tell us all the details.
Okay, so when they say it's who you know, it's really, that plays a lot into this. And I'm a member of the Entrepreneurs Organization, which is an organization of entrepreneurs that do 1 million in revenue annually or more. And it's all over the world. So huge connectivity there. I was asked by a member of the Seattle chapter if I could speak for this Women in Business Day event. I was the opening keynote speaker. Now, because that was like friendly and sort of doing a favor, my speaking fee was what I charge typically for EO events. And an EO, when you're a member there and you're doing, speaking events within the community, it's globally sort of expected to speak at about a $1,500 fee.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows that's low, and everybody knows that's much lower than what we could get at various other events, but it doesn't matter. And then now, since my book came out in March of 2022, I always ask/demand. I've never had to demand, but that they do a book buy for every participant or every ticket holder or every member that's coming to, like if I speak at a chapter, even if 30 members come to the engagement, but the chapter has 100 people, I ask them to do a book buy for the entire chapter.
What do you say exactly? Do you say, do you want to buy 100 books? Or do you say, I recommend you buy 100 books?
Nope.
Or
I present it as, this is my fee, $1,500 for this particular event. If I have to fly or lodge, right, I ask them to do that. And then I say a book buy for every member of the organization. Now, I started out, the first time I did this when the book published, I started out giving a discount on the book. And then someone in EO said, "Why are you doing that?" And I was like, I don't know. And I didn't really think about it. I didn't answer it. It wasn't a whole long discovery process. I just now sell it for retail. And there's never any pushback.
where does the 100 books come from? Do you have boxes of them in a warehouse somewhere? Or do you call up your publisher and say, send 100 books to Seattle?
Good question. I have a few boxes of books that were printed in the US, but I just recently had 4,000 printed from an incredible printer in China. They're much better quality. They're saddle stitched instead of glued. And so I have 2,000 in my basement, 1,000 paperback, 1,000 hardcover, and they are keeping the balance in China so that I don't have to clog up my basement for when I need another shipment. And they are not charging me for holding them there.
I know what 4,000 books looks like. I got 4,000 copies of mine. I think I have about 2,000 copies left. I'm always excited to move a box of them, and I carry a box of them in my car, and I try to not come home with books.
You know what? Here's another thing that I do with these speaking engagements. I offer to have them pre-signed. So I sign them. I sit there and sign 100 books at a time, and date them for the date of the event. And then at the event, if the recipients want me to personalize it, then I do that.
That's really nice. Yeah.
I'm not sure how long that will last, because signing books by yourself in your basement garage is kind of lonely.
I got my 5-year-old boy and 7-year-old girl to sign copies of my books, and they're hilarious. They love it. They're like a limited edition collector's item with Ruby and Charlie's name on it. Okay, so we had the personal relationship with the organization that you know very well and you're a member of. You know about what you should charge, even though that's lower than open market rate. You say, hey, it's $100 book buy. It's not an option. It's
not $100 book buy.
Sorry, 100 books. Yeah.
Well, for however many people, how many are they expecting? How many are planning for 100? That's how many they're buying.
And did you fly for that?
No. So this particular event, even though this member is from Seattle, the event was in San Francisco. So it was just a drive over the Bay Bridge, which, by the way, is typically 30 minutes, but it was an hour and 15 minutes. But I digress.
But you're a pro and you left like 3 hours early, right?
I got there in time for the sound check. And, there at any speaking event, you have to be prepared for challenges, timeline glitches. And I think I'm going to share this because it's important to know that there's always going to be something, and you never know what that something is going to be. So this was at a beautiful building with incredible AV tech, but for some reason they couldn't get my presenter notes on the confidence monitors. It could only mirror what the audience was seeing. And I had prepared a fairly new keynote that I had, and we can talk about how I practice and rehearse and such, but I needed to see my presenter notes because they were just like, for every section of my talk, there were 3 parts. And yes, I did sort of memorize them, but it was the first iteration of this. So I needed some backup. So I had to use my computer at a podium, which meant I had to keep going back, which is fine. I'm a performer. I don't let it rattle me. But this is what rattled me. I had paid for a videographer to come and take one long shot and also close-ups with a second camera and audience reactions. And I had paid him to come for the sound check. My keynote was to be at 9:30. And when I got done with the sound check, I was like, hey, when is your, talking to one of my friends, when is your workshop? And then the conversation turned to, I said, oh, okay, well, I'm on at 9:30. So I'll see you at your workshop. And then someone said, oh, you're on at 1, actually. And I was like, I'm flexible. I'm fine to do the keynote at 1. It's not going to rattle my feathers. I was planning to stay anyway. However, I'm paying my videographer. He can't stay, and it would be $1,700 if he stayed, throughout the day, his day rate. So I said, actually, I was contracted and there was no signed contract for this particular thing, but still an email confirmation is contracted, right? Actually, I was contracted at 9:30. I've hired this videographer. He can't stay. And if he could, it would be, too much money. So I'd like to ask for you to rearrange the day. And they did. It took 3 minutes of discussing among themselves, and their timeline was already a little bit not centered. And so we went back into the green room and the videographer said, you're a baller. That was a baller move. Nice. I'm like, well, I didn't really have to put my foot down, but I stated my situation and it was well received, and all's well that ended well.
Good. So you had your videographer there, long shot and close-ups with audience reactions. Let's just go back for a second to fee. I just posted a TikTok, a video on TikTok that went viral because it upset so many people, because I said how I answer the question, what do you charge?
Yeah.
And 6.3 million people saw it, and thousands and thousands and thousands of comments are like, that's the worst advice you ever, they're very angry by the way I respond.
I haven't seen that one yet. So what did you say?
I'll tell you after you tell me.
Okay.
What do you say when they say, hey, Natasha, we'd like you to be our keynote speaker. What's your fee?
$20,000.
All right. And then they say, oh, we only have this other number. What do you say?
I really balance where it is, what time it is, who the target audience is. And I really look at the outcomes that I can serve them with, and also the outcomes that might serve me, and weigh it. And it becomes a negotiation. And I think at $20,000, why can't I charge that, right? Why can I say that's my speaking fee? Well, I've built a $30 million business over 22 years, Inc. 5,000 3 times in a row, Wall Street Journal, 12 literary awards. I know my stuff. I'm also a performer. I've sung the national anthem for 40,000 people many times for pro sporting events. And I have 7 CDs. Like, I can just rattle off, and I don't really need to do that. Because people already know once they get to me, it's all over my website. You can't really miss it. And now I don't want to be an on the road professional speaker. That is not my, right? I just want to do 8 speaking gigs at that fee a year. And the other speaking gigs that I do for less than that are, it just varies on the situation.
Okay.
And
right.
the location. And
so
I don't like to travel. So that's,
okay.
Yeah.
So if EO Seattle said, oh, geez, $20,000, our budget's $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we want you to fly to Seattle, come in the night before.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say?
Yes. And the yes is because EO is such a catalyst of so much connection and opportunities. And it is sort of a given through EO. Now, if an EO member asked me to speak for their corporation, right? Or one of my EO friends in Seattle works with Microsoft. If Microsoft needed a keynote speaker, they're paying $15,000 to $20,000, even if it's because an EO member, was the connector.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So here's what I say, Natasha.
Yeah.
I say, so they say, what do you charge? I say, I'm happy to work within your budget. Why don't we figure out if I'm actually the right fit for this engagement first? If I am, I'll work within your budget. Fair enough. So this TikTok, it was completely out of context.
It doesn't really seem controversial to me. That sounds lovely, but
oh my gosh. The people are like, oh, you're wasting my time, and just say your price, and this is terrible advice. And for people who sell commodity stuff that there's nothing unique about it, then of course the price is the price. And for people who are shopping based on price, this is a very frustrating response. But I say, let's see if I'm actually the fit for this engagement first, and if I am, I'll work within your budget. Fair enough. And then if they say, I usually say my speaking fee is 5,000. And so if they say, well, our budget's 1,500, then they go, then I will say, well, here's what I can do. I can't discount my $5,000 price. That would be unfair to my clients who are paying 5,000. What I can do is accept what you have in cash, 1,500, and make up the difference in value. So with the 3,500 deficit in value, what I really value is high quality video. If you get a videographer there and give me a copy of the video, high quality photos. If you have a professional photographer there, give me a copy of the photos, and 3 specific phone calls to 3 organizations that might be interested in hiring me, possibly at my full fee. And you can make 3 phone calls to those organizations. That would be worth $3,500 to me. You'd get yourself a $5,000 speaker for only $1,500. How's that sound?
Rock on.
So that's what I do.
I don't know how that is possibly controversial. I think it's brilliant.
Well, I'm very grateful to all the comments because it apparently made the video go viral, and I have 50,000 new followers to serve now on the TikTok. So that's great.
Awesome.
Okay, so we've covered fee. Let's talk about your book and your story. And your book is relentless. Your story is from homeless living in the car to running a $30 million Inc. 5,000 company. What have you learned from publishing a book, that book? And what would you like to share about your story that you think would be valuable to our audience?
One thing, I didn't live in my car, but I did live at a homeless shelter, and it gets worse. I didn't live in the homeless shelter because my family was poor, or I was dumped there on Christmas Day by my family. So just a minor correction there, but it it does, the book is about my life, growing up in a very challenging household with a mentally ill family member, and really not being just resilient. That isn't going to get you anywhere. It's going to get you from where you were, back to, if you have a challenging time with an illness or something like that. That's resilience. When you bounce back, you have to be relentless in the pursuit of what you want to achieve. Now, did I have this language and I have this, thought leadership or mentors and advisors telling me this? No, I found it within myself somehow, which is, I really, looking back, I'm not sure what that was, divine intervention maybe, but I was able to pull myself out of all these really challenging situations and amplify all the opportunities that came my way, the positive opportunities, but also I amplified the negative ones and really learned how to thrive, in spite of hardship. So the book, Relentless, I mean, people have responded saying it's like a roller coaster on steroids. Like you read the book and you're like, what on earth could possibly happen next? And then you get slammed with, oh my God. So really low, crazy inflection points and really high, wonderful inflection points. And what it's done for me, it's changed my life in a way that I did not expect. I think because of how vulnerable and open I am in the book, and I admit some things out loud that you wouldn't want to tell me about yourself, right? It's giving people permission to know that some of the things that they do to self-soothe or, what they're thinking, they start to think, oh, I can say that out loud if she can. Or they come to me and they say what they have in common with my story. And I've been really surprised at how many men are really identifying and reaching out to me. That's the surprise.
So you were super vulnerable in your book, and this is allowing people to connect with those experiences and to reach out with you and feel like they know you, because you're able to articulate something that is so hard for most people to admit or share about themselves, and they're feeling seen, like you would understand them. And shifting a little bit over to what you're offering now with this Memoir Sherpa. Tell us about maybe some of the unique challenges of writing a memoir, specifically a good memoir, and publishing that people can learn from you through Memoir Sherpa.
Yes, I found a passion in memoir and publishing while I was writing this book. And I knew from quite early on to take voracious notes of everything that I was learning. So I was going down the crevices of every little tiny thing that you have to do to write, publish, and market a book. And I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do with it, but I knew that it was sort of thought leadership and taking people that needed help through the process. I didn't have a me throughout the process. I had a few, oh, that was not a good experience. Oh, that was a great experience. Okay, that was an okay experience. That was a great experience, the whole way. So now I walk people through the journey and they don't have to experience those bumps and those, oh, that wasn't really a good situation. I think a very well-written memoir is actually important because there's a lot of memoirs that read like an essay or a journal, and there's not polished prose, there isn't suspense. I believe that a great memoir reads like a book of fiction. And that's what I wanted for my book, for you to read the book and go, oh my God, I couldn't put it, what is going to happen next? But nothing in it is fictionalized. But the way that it reads like fiction is polishing, editing, thinking, adding dynamics and color, showing, not telling. And a lot of the people that come into my program are like, well, I'm not a good writer, or I can't write at all, or, it's hard for me to pay attention. I don't have time, all these things. And I have a system that I created that makes it so easy for people to put down their story and figure out what they want to say, but also how to teach somebody who doesn't write well, how to write better. And then at some point, if they really aren't great at putting together prose, then we get an editor, right? And there's writers use editors. Writers aren't just like, oh, I'm a writer and this is just how it's going to be. No, you need another set of eyes. Typically, if you're a really great writer, that set of eyes is maybe later in the process. But if I see my students in need where they're at, then, that's the advice that I give them. And I connect them with the right person.
Love that. Cool. So taking people from feeling like they're not a good writer to becoming a better writer, having an editor, and turning their story into not just a journal entry, but a prose and feels like a work of fiction, but it's actually truth.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Love that. All
I
right.
love it.
I've got a question. I don't know that you can answer for me, but you're in the event business.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got a really unique understanding of where events are at these days with the post-pandemic world that we're in. I've got a selfish question that you might be able to help me with.
Okay.
I had a big event. It was going to be my biggest event ever. We had the hotel booked and we had the big announcement and all the speakers coming, and then the pandemic hit, and of course we canceled everything. And since then, I've been hesitant to host an event, especially with international travelers. Now I'm in Canada and the border is now open to all humans. And I want to put on an event where I think I'm going to get 50 people to come and pay $100.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just sitting here worried, like a couple of trends that I think I'm seeing. One is the trend of like, okay, if I have this event in March and we're in December now, so that's 3 months away, and I want to sell people a $100 ticket, they're going to say to themselves, I'll see how I feel in March. So we've got this like, wait, why buy now dilemma. And then, how big of a room do I get? Do I get a room for 100 people? And what if only 10, 20 people show up? So my question is about like, what's the best way to market and sell an event that people are buying tickets to? And this is like a seminar model where they come for a low ticket and there's a high ticket offer. Yeah.
I mean, the first thing that came to mind when you said the price, I think, I don't know you well, but I've seen, quite a bit of your videos and I know what you're putting out in the world. I think that ticket should be higher, my own opinion. But when somebody buys that ticket, then they're in. Like $100 for some people is a lot of money, but for most people, it's not going to make or break, their lives. If you make it a little more painful for them, like, oh no, I gotta go. I paid $500 for this. I'm going, right? That might be something you can consider. I'll tell you, within the event industry, so we do large scale events for Google, Salesforce, LinkedIn, Asana, like all the big tech companies. We're in the San Francisco Bay Area, right? And people are having events. They're having small events. They're having events for thousands of people. And people are ignoring the scare of COVID and RSV and the flu to an extent. It's not making or breaking somebody's event. I think the event that I spoke at on Monday, there were 100 people posed to be there. And I think probably what I could gauge from the audience, there may have been 80. And maybe because I went on at 9:30 instead of 1, there was more later that showed up. I wouldn't be hesitant at this point in the pandemic to do that event. And Majeed, we are Entire Productions, my core business. We are planning our annual marketing event at the Cal Academy of Sciences in March, and over 900 people RSVP'd for that in 2020. We had to cancel that event.
Yeah.
And I believe we're having it on March 14th this year, that it's going to be a blowout. Now, these people don't have to pay for a ticket. It's a marketing event. So it's, all of our clients from all those big tech companies, but they're not going to come if they are, if they feel it's unsafe. I think we've gotten used to living with this pandemic. So my advice to you would be to do it.
Yeah.
but to raise your
So
price.
raise the price so that you'll have a higher caliber attendee and a more committed attendee.
Yep.
And what do you find, if you have experience with this, is the best marketing and sales strategy for selling $500 seminar tickets?
Mhm. I don't have personal experience selling because even though I have an event planning agency, I am not parlaying that yet into Memoir Sherpa. I take that back. I did a book launch at the SF MoMA, and you don't typically sell tickets for a book launch, right? I sold tickets, and I sold VIP tickets. I sold general admission tickets. The VIP tickets, I think, were like $1,500 each. The general admission tickets, I think, were like $97. And my friends and my colleagues and the people in my industry bought tickets. And that was March of 2022. So yeah, make sure
cool.
that there's some sparkly, fun. I was surprised at some of the VIP tickets I sold. And some of the VIP tickets included this beautiful influencer box for my book launch with, a necklace that I had made and lots of really cool goodies. Some people bought two. And I know that they're supporting me and they also wanted the thing and they wanted the access. But you'd be surprised at who will support you.
Yeah. At what
At
price did you sell those at?
1,500.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And I also put in a donation option because the Covenant House is a nonprofit that I support with the book sales and speaking fee. 20% of my speaking fee is going to Covenant House. And I put in a donation option, and I think we raised $1,000 for Covenant House.
Nice.
I mean, that wasn't a huge amount, but yeah, make it optional and you'll, see the magic.
That means so they're going into buy their ticket, and then you can click a different price point to upgrade, and part of that's going to go to the donation.
No, not at all. It's a separate donation box. So which ticket do you want? And would you like to donate? Would you like to make a donation to the Covenant House?
Nice.
Yeah. So it's not just within, it's, do you want to make it? And then, yes, I do donate on my own behalf. So Covenant House is getting more than just what they've donated, right? They're getting my fees, part of my fees donated as well.
Cool. All right. So we've covered the details of negotiating the inbound speaking fee request or the speaking engagement. We've talked about writing a memoir and the importance of your book. We've talked about hosting an event and charging tickets. What's your opinion on contracts? You mentioned, you said the phrase, I'm contracted for 9:30 in the morning, but it was just an email saying speak at 9:30. Do you feel it's important to have a contract, or are there specific agreements that you make sure that you cover when you're in a speaking engagement? Like, what do we do in case one of us needs to cancel, for example?
I think I've probably contracted almost every other paid speaking gig in the past with my own contract. And, it describes things like the deposit and when the balance is due. In the contract, it doesn't give the details of like load in and when the sound check is. But if we know the time and the location at the time of the contract, we put that in. I do have a writer, a hospitality writer and a travel writer. And a writer, RIDER, for those that don't know what that is just a list of things that you're requesting. Now, headline performers, this is part of their contract. So when you get their writer and it says they want only green M&Ms, if you don't have those green M&Ms there for them, you are out of contract and they could legally not do the gig. Now, I don't think any headline performer is going to not do the gig because of, one little thing on their writer. Actually, those were put in to double check and make sure that the planner was reading in detail the contract and the writer. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I ask for, I ask for what I want and I inform them what my needs are. And so I think a contract, honestly, a contract would have been better for me for this last speaking gig. And I probably won't do one without one again. It's just an agreement of understanding, really.
Yeah. You mentioned about how you prepare.
Mm.
So you're a performer, you're a pro. What do you do to make sure that your presentation is entertaining and dramatic and artistic and all those things? And what do you do to make sure that you have the right message for the audience?
Yes, I mean, that's it's a whole thing. So starting with the right message for the audience. Right now, my keynote is, it's not enough to be resilient. You must be relentless. And I have to ask myself, what is the audience going to glean from this? What do you want them to take away? If I'm talking to super successful, wise entrepreneurs, what are they going to get from that sentiment? Because they are relentless or they wouldn't be successful. So I make sure that I address them in a way that makes them understand that they're anchored in what I'm delivering. And then those that aren't as successful or as wise, meaning, having the experience that others do, then I know that I can really inspire them. I do know that just like a great memoir, a great speech needs to have some levity and humor and needs to take people on in an emotional journey. I don't mean, a roller coaster journey, but sometimes that's what happens. And what happened on Monday, I want to share with you because I was so proud. And because this was the first iteration of this speech that I gave ever. It was, it's a little different than what I've been doing. So you're never sure how it's going to land. I could feel the audience breathing and moving with me. It's like we were one big organism. And when I started to say things, I could hear them gasp out loud. And when I was telling them, I'll give you an example of moving into my first apartment at 16 years old. And I said, and I walked in and I flipped the switch, but the light wasn't on. And I was like, oh, the light must be burned out. So I went to another room and I flipped the switch. The lights didn't come on then either. And at that point, you could hear the audience go, oh my gosh, they knew what was happening. They knew that the electricity wasn't turned on. They knew that I didn't know that you had to call the utility company. They knew that you had to have a credit check. You had to put down a deposit, right? So they were in there living that moment with me. And I'm not a super dramatic person. So what I just did for you right there is about how I do it live on stage. I'm not really over the top. But as I went through the speech, I could feel them ebbing and flowing with me. So I had them in the pocket. And it feels right now, just saying that, pretty manipulative. But I set out, when I got there, I was like, these are my goals. I want to honor my EO friend's confidence in me and her choice in me. I want to make sure that the audience is feeling something. Number 3, I want to come off as I'm speaking to the audience as if they were across the table from me, not at them as this big, keynote speaker that is saying what. So those were some of my objectives.
Yeah.
Do you want me to talk about how I prepared for it?
Yes, please.
So I wrote this speech and they were in segments and chunks and buckets. And I created a slideshow for this one as well, which was really actually so helpful. So I had written the speech, and then when I had it really pretty down and I thought, okay, this is it. I know that I needed to edit, but the best way for me to have edited that speech was actually to create slides. So that was my own creative process, right? I don't know if that would work for anyone else.
Yep.
And I whittled down the 5 to 7 points that I had in each segment to no more than 3.
Okay.
And then I practiced them in chronicle order out loud.
Yep.
By myself. Then I practiced them backward from end to the beginning. And you'll probably understand this. We skip and don't practice enough, sort of the mid to the last 2/3 part of the speech. And so I was like, okay, that's your Achilles heel. You don't want to do it. So you're going to just practice those parts. And then I got in my car, and I didn't do this on purpose, but I happened to be going somewhere. And I checked myself without any slides, without any notes. And I walked through the talk chronologically. I don't suggest trying to drive and go through your speech reverse chronologically. I think that might not be safe. But then on the way back from that errand I was running, I sang my speech in nonsensical singing, not to a song, not to a melody, but I sang it melodically. And I think that triggers another part of the brain and helps you retain, right? Now, here's what went wrong. What I wish I had done. I wish I had delivered this speech in front of an audience of either living human beings right in front of me, a grouping of people, 5 to 10, or done it online a couple of times. Because what my speech lacked on that day was reps.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no excuse for why I didn't do that.
How would you have done that if you could have? Would you do it by yourself at home, or would you do it in front of a camera or in front of a live audience?
So I actually thought about this, and this is why I didn't do it. The people that I would have asked to do it for in live would know me and know me very well. I didn't want to do that. I kind of want to do it for arm's length people or two arm's length people.
Yeah.
I could have asked random people from EO, hey, I need to practice the speech. Can you all join me on a Zoom? Who's available? I'm in a speakers and authors group. I could have asked them. I run the Forbes Business Council authors group. I could have asked them. I'm in JVMM with you. I could have asked you and them. So it really, there's no excuse. And I let myself down. I didn't let the audience down. They had a very good experience.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking for perfection, but I'm looking for excellence. And I fell short of that for myself.
Yep. Gotcha. All right. So we've covered preparation. We've covered performance and drama and bringing people into the moment and letting them see the irony of the moment and come to these conclusions. And it's interesting you call that manipulative, maybe without judgment.
Well, that just came up right in the moment of saying what I was saying out loud here with you. I'm like, that's manipulation, but performance is manipulation.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I'm not judging. Okay, I got a sales question for you.
Okay.
So you get on stage, you're in front of an audience. You know, some of the people in that audience would be a good fit for your Memoir Sherpa program.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of the people in the audience would be a good fit for hiring your event company for their corporate event coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, okay, I'm in front of an audience, I should sell, but I don't want to make a pitch, so maybe I'm going to slip in a little something? Or do you just think, nope, this is a performance, I've been paid for the performance, and there's no selling happening here, or anything in between? How do you think about the sale and the opportunities in the audience to serve the audience with giving them the invitation to hire you? How do you weave that in? How do you think about that?
I believe in selling authentically from stage. That wasn't my first and foremost agenda. However, some of the things that I did in that speech actually were workshop-like. So I asked everyone to get out their phone or a piece of paper and jot down their highest 3 inflection points of their life and told them why and told them what would be a high inflection point, in my opinion. And then I had them do the bottom 3. And one of the things that the call to action was, if you feel like sharing with me, send them to me in an email. I will keep them confidential. Then later in the talk, and this was only a half-hour talk, actually. It went from, I had an hour and a half, which was way too long, to 50 minutes, which would have been just right, to a half hour. And usually I perform, actually. I sing and play guitar. And so I did not do any of that. at the end, I asked them to, jot down other things too and send them to me as well. And I said to them after they wrote their inflection points, I'm like, you may have just started your memoir, right? And if they go to my website, they're going to see that these things are available. They already had the book, so I couldn't sell that to them, but I wanted them to read it. So when you get a free book, you're not as likely to read it as if you bought it. So I wanted my story to be so compelling that I kind of dangled some teasers in the book. And I said, I'm not going to go into that now, but just know toward the end of this book, you will be like, what? Right? So now everybody has to get to the end of the book, right? Because they want to know what it is that I tease. So that was selling.
I love that. So you're teasing and selling towards the completion of the book. Mm-hmm. Which is going to build their bond with you, and it's going to, they get to spend more time with you. I love the phrase, you may have just started your memoir, because the people who are prospects for you are going to go, oh, whoa, this is it. I'm doing it. This is the beginning of my author journey. Great.
I didn't give a hard call to action, but at the end on the thank you screen was my email address, of course, that includes my personal URL, natashamiller.com. And then I also said, without speaking, I didn't say this out loud to anyone. It said text relentless to, and then my text number.
And what does that do?
That gives an automated text that says, it prompts you to a link to read the book or buy the book and a link to Memoir Sherpa.
I'm going to do it right now. What's the number? Do you know?
Oh, yes. Well, I have to find it. Oh my gosh, you put me on the spot. I'm going to find it. We're going to have it here in just a moment. Hold on. I thought it was quite brilliant, and I did it last minute, and I did not mention it at all. And I got a few texts. I didn't get many. Perhaps one day, a couple more will come through.
Why didn't you mention it? What's the logic there?
I had so many things that I was trying to accomplish. Yeah. I didn't want to force my brain and myself to have to add more things to it. The number is 415-329-8408.
415-329-8408. Text the word relentless.
Relentless. Mm-hmm. And if you misspell it, you don't get the automation. You don't
get nice. It worked for me, even though I'm in Canada. So that's cool.
Awesome.
So I've got the relentless link, and I've got the learn how to write your memoir link.
Yeah. Oh, and that takes you to a webinar that leads into Memoir Sherpa. So awesome. Once I get more reps, every rep I do of this, I will be able to add on some of these things. But I know myself and I know my limits. And what I really wanted to do was impact this crowd. And I didn't need to sell to them. And I didn't need, right? The investment wasn't big enough to try to expound upon.
Yeah. Natasha, thank you for sharing so openly all of your wisdom. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to share?
No, I think we covered we covered a lot. I'm just so thankful to be in your world and to have met you just recently, and love this time with you.
Thank you, Natasha. All right, there you have it. Expert speaker Natasha Miller out there changing lives with her book Relentless, with her program Memoir Sherpa, with her event business. And do you have more businesses than the event business and the coaching business? What else do you do, Natasha?
I do. So I own a catalog of music, both mine and the man who wrote the song Unchain My Heart that Joe Cocker and Ray Charles recorded. And so that's called B Sharp Music. I have real estate holdings. I'm pretty diversified and I'm pretty crazy. If you go to omnipreneur.com, you can see the various things that I'm involved with right now that are outside of my core business, which is entire productions.
And what's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they're interested in working with you?
Natasha at natashamiller.com.
Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Expert Speaker Podcast. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and leave us a rating so that more people can discover the Expert Speaker Podcast and so more people can be empowered to share their message. Be sure to go to www.expertspeaker.com and take the masterclass to learn how to grow your business and make money speaking. It's totally free and will change your business. If you're ready to work with Expert Speaker, you can apply. Just go to expertspeaker.com/apply and someone from our team will be in touch with you to help you grow your business with public speaking. That's expertspeaker.com/apply. We'll see you in the next episode.